the answers, no answers. I could find you, I could find
From the Sporting News Studios, this is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Matt Litevsky.
I got all the answers, all the answers. I could find you, I could find all the answers. If you let me get it close and study you.
Big week, guys. Big week. Last week was a big week for a lot of fantasy teams.
Just keep getting
That was, well, they do, but last week was nuts.
Last week.
It was. We were back to silly season with Will Fuller, who, we were like, he's due. We didn't know he was that due.
Regression all came at once.
Positive regression all at once. Aaron Jones went off. Michael Thomas was huge. Thielen was big. Christian McCaffrey, of course, like every week. Deshaun Watson. There were some crazy scores, I think, across fantasy leagues last week. So
not for Baker Mayfield.
Nah, man, I think that guy's done.
Yeah.
I think it's over. But
should he hang him up?
Well, maybe. We'll get into that. We'll get into a couple of these guys later on when we go over the good matchups, bad matchups of Week 6. Eric Ferreira, Fantasy Football Commissioner, 5-0, highest scoring team in our league.
That's right, man.
That's right. You're here to help us out. Billy A. and Sporting News Fantasy intern. He's here to help us out.
You pulled a little commish move this morning, looking for some money. Was it this morning?
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
Well, yeah, just trying to round it up.
It's about that time. We're 5-6 weeks in.
Yeah, I got half the leagues paid.
You don't want people to,
Right.
I
realize you should ask right away. I let it slide because we all work together. Like,
right.
I'm not worried about people not paying, but
it's about that time.
It's time.
It's time to be the commish.
It's time. I gotta.
If you need any help with that,
do
let me know.
my duties. I mean, we're both commissioners, so it's a real fraternity we're in. But
it's a thankless job, really.
That's right. But yeah, we will go over the good bad matchups. I can't say good matchups, bad matchups.
Good matchups and mad matchups.
You do like your vocal exercises before the podcast.
I should have done those. I was too busy doing other stuff. We'll go over the highest trending players of the week, and we always start, of course, by looking back at last week, what we were wrong about. For once, I'm not leading that. 2 weeks in a row where I was way off, but this week I think it's mainly Billy, who was just down on Jared Cook. Would not accept me saying he was going to have a good week last week because of the matchup, and then goes out and catches a touchdown.
He did catch a touchdown. 6 targets 2 weeks in a row. Maybe Teddy Two Gloves finally wants to throw him the football.
Oh, he wants to throw him the football. I don't know if he can get it to him, but he wants to.
Well, that's more than was happening earlier in the season.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, I really do think last week it was all a matchup thing. He had a good one. He caught a touchdown. Now this week, Jaguars, I think so. Kind of a neutral matchup. I wouldn't expect much from him.
But I picked him up.
Yay. Well,
I needed a bye week replacement. So
those Darren Waller owners are in trouble.
I'm going to go against what I believe in, which is Jared Cook can't have 2 good weeks in a row.
Exactly.
And he had those bad ones, so maybe now he's going to have a couple good ones.
Yeah, maybe it sort of evens out that way. But the one thing I'll say is we were wrong on basically every other tight end last week. Because I think I was also caping up a little bit for Trey Burton in a really good matchup with Oakland, but that dude, I don't know.
I don't think he's that good.
I don't know.
He's not.
Is it that he's not good, or is it just wrong offense? A little bit of everything.
If you're a good player, though, the offense will find you. I don't think a lot of coaches are out there being like, this guy can get open, but it's not really.
He's not great, obviously, but there's something wrong with him. I mean, he showed flashes before, and then Noah Fant, disappointed. Dawson Knox, we all loved him, disappointed.
Yeah.
It's one of those weeks, I guess, with tight ends.
It's tight ends, man. It's like
tight ends. It's going to keep going.
I mean, Cook only had 4 for 41. It's because he popped in a TD.
Right, that's exactly it. That's the key. The other thing, and I can't remember if this was all Billy or if you were a little bit part of it.
I was probably a little in on it.
I know I was holding back on it, and that was the praise for Ronald Jones and the whole, hey, this guy, he's taking over the backfield.
I'm going to say this,
I feel like I definitely couched myself.
I don't think it's so much praise as like being against Peyton Barber and not understanding why Tampa is still obsessed with giving him the ball.
That's always my point, is they're just going to keep doing it, even though we all maybe think it's the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, except Ron Jones finally, we're just going to call him Ron Jones now, Ronnie Jones.
Right.
He was starting to prove him wrong. I mean, 3 weeks of over 70 yards when they actually gave him the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like we were saying this guy is more talented, but he's never done anything. He was starting to do stuff. But I just... I need him this week. He's another bye week replacement for me.
Right. Well, wouldn't this be the Trey Burton theory?
You really should have done your vocal exercises.
If he was, if Ronald Jones is so talented, like everyone thinks, and like Pro Football Focus ranked him then he should be getting the ball more. So maybe he's not as good as we think.
But every time
Tampa's seeing that every day.
But every time he gets the ball, he does fine. He does pretty well.
Every time he got the ball last week. What, 8 carries?
He wasn't in a rhythm. He wasn't in a rhythm.
He's got to be in the rhythm. All right, makes sense. Anyway,
Barber's
and honestly,
so uninspiring.
It can't be good for Ronald Jones' self-esteem every time they put Peyton Barber in instead of him. He's probably feeling kind of down on himself in a game like that.
The snaps were dead even, and then old Dare was one behind.
It was
those
2020
two.
and 19.
So it's just that's just a mess.
They're just.
I would advise to continue to stay away from Ronald Jones.
They're like San Fran, except the running backs aren't as good. San Fran has like 3 pretty good running backs.
I'm getting involved with Ronald Jones this week.
Yeah,
so.
you have no choice.
All right.
No choice.
Enjoy your involvement.
Yeah,
I'm
no
involved
Josh
with
Jacobs.
Ron Jones and Jared Cook.
I know.
2 of the what were we thinking people.
That's right. Well, yeah.
I'm getting involved with both of them.
That's how it works. All right, let's look at the highest trending, and not a great week for high trending guys because there weren't a ton of big injuries, and there wasn't that like kind of obvious breakout. The guys who had those huge games were pretty much all owned guys. Nothing too interesting, but we're gonna hit up All the Web, which is a name I really like for a search engine.
Now, does that cover just a portion of the internet or?
No, All the Web.
Oh, all of it.
All the Web.
All of it. Wow.
Not some.
Even what about the .orgs?
All the Web.
Wow.
.co's, .edus.
How did
have
this
you.
search engine not make it? It looks like you've got a born on and like a.
Yeah, 99 to 2011 got sold, eventually folded into Yahoo. So I guess it
they
still
made some
sort of
money.
lives on.
So they probably made some money.
I'm sure they did, but it's just a name I like. When I was looking up old search engines, I thought that's a good one.
All the web it.
All the Web it. We're gonna all the web these guys, and David Johnson up there toward the top. I like he had a good game last week, 150 total yards as was expected against the Bengals, but was in and out a little bit. He said his back locked up. Doesn't sound good.
Not great.
And then the Cardinals said, we're going to monitor him all week. I don't know if that meant his back or just...
Does that mean they're not monitoring their other players?
Well, or does that mean like they're following him home?
Or is it like one of those like baby monitors where the parents like have one in their room and they can like hear when you're crying?
Right, Cliff Kingsbury's got the little nanny cam. What's he doing right now? Okay, just watching Netflix. So anyway, David Johnson. So Chase Edmonds had 12 touches or 11 touches, the most touches he's had this year. They've sort of been going up now for a couple weeks straight. Had a 37-yard touchdown last week. I started noticing a lot of little Chase Edmonds buzz out there. And I don't know if it was just because of the David Johnson being monitored news or if there's more to it than that. But I guess, it sounds like he's going to play. I mean, I would assume he's going to play this week against Atlanta. But so really the question is more about Chase Edmonds. Like, I think he was only owned in 4% of Yahoo leagues. Is this a guy who should be owned in more leagues? Do you think he can be a standalone flex play even if Johnson's active? Or is he just a handcuff?
I think he should definitely be owned more than 4% of leagues.
Yeah,
period.
I think by the middle of today it was up to like 25.
Okay, so people there was no one else to pick up this week, so they were like, fine, I'll pick up Chase Edmonds.
But obviously if Johnson's not playing, I mean, the matchup with Atlanta's a great one for Edmonds.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's weird about Atlanta? So I feel like Atlanta's got a terrible defense, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they get gashed every week. But fantasy points against to running backs, they're actually 25th.
Yeah, they're not that bad.
Right. But you know what's weird? But then I go and look at like who they've played and what they've given up. And they've given up some like bad games.
Yeah.
Like Dalvin Cook. Actually, Cook and Madison went for 160 against them.
Killed him.
The Eagles guys didn't do anything.
The Texans guys gashed him last week.
Marlon Mack went for 74. Tennessee went for 116. And then the Houston guys went for 120 or 119.
Right.
What's weird is that they actually don't give up anything receiving.
Yeah.
I think that's where the like non-points are coming from. They haven't given up more than 3 catches. Sorry, no, one Deion Lewis had 4 catches against him. But basically 1, 2, 3, and 4 catches combined
Not
from running backs.
Right, they've given up 91 total receiving
So it's
yards,
weird, but you're like definitely... Seems like a great matchup, right? Start your running backs against Atlanta.
Obviously, they can be thrown on. They're giving up big play touchdowns. So, that might be part of how they're limiting the run, which means that if a team says, hey, we'll run, they can, especially with the injuries now to Neal. So, yeah, Chase Edmonds interesting this week. 4 teams on bye. All of them have a back that's being started in fantasy leagues. I could see people playing Edmonds a flex this week, but it's definitely a risk.
Well, Arizona doesn't throw the ball downfield, so
they're a weird team.
Their running backs are always in play for targets and receptions.
Yeah, but obviously this Johnson thing, back injuries, they'll linger. It can be tricky.
Yeah, you need to find the key to unlock it,
That's right.
I'm just going to monitor him the rest of the week.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to continue monitoring the Cardinals monitoring him, and we'll see what happens.
And I'll monitor you guys monitoring that.
There you go. See, now we got all bases covered. Another interesting backfield. Billy already mentioned them. The 49ers, they finally get Tevin Coleman back. And looked 100%.
Yep.
And he had a big game. Matt Breida, of course, had a huge game. And old Mozart, our old buddy, was sort of just relegated to
He's mopping up.
change of pace, mop up. And I would guess that's what we're going to see more often than not going forward. What was weird was Breida was finally outrunning pass patterns, especially around the goal line when he really hadn't been doing that when Coleman was hurt. So I don't exactly know who's the best receiver out of that group right now. I would say it's probably Coleman.
They were probably conserving Breida when Coleman was out, and now he fits a little more into that.
It's possible. They're really unleashing the Breida.
Yeah.
What about Breida?
Breida, too. He had a big game, too, on Monday night. So I guess the question is, going forward, it was a favorable matchup, obviously, against the Browns. They both took advantage. This week, on paper, another very favorable matchup against the Rams. I mean, should they both be started? Does that feel like Mostert is on the bench? You keep him around his depth in case one of these two guys gets hurt, since they're both, I think it's fair to say, injury-prone. At least Breida is.
Yeah.
So he should be owned and kept around, but he's not a starter. But these other two, should you start them?
I think so.
I think so, too.
I mean, if they were both on your team, you probably got to pick one.
Well, that too.
But two separate owners, because I can't tell which one to start over the other. So it kind of makes them both start over.
I think it's clearly Coleman. I think, Breida obviously had the huge run and then caught a touchdown. He got the start technically. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I own Breida and I've been, been burned by him so many times. It's tough for me to fully trust him, but he looks good. He's had 200-yard games.
I think it's also
in the past 3 games.
I think San Francisco wants to run the ball and play
That's
defense.
very true.
Garoppolo hasn't been that great.
Right.
I think if they can keep the game script in their favor, they will give two backs 15 carries each.
Yeah.
If they can't, they'd love to do
well,
that.
at least 12.
Okay, fine. 12.
Yeah, at least 12. We'll calm it down a little on this crazy 15 number.
Sorry, man.
You're really
promoting their running game.
Really highballing it there. What do you think, Billy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you play them both. I think this week will be telling. There's a chance that they sort of split it up like that last week with Coleman in his first game back. I don't think that's true because obviously Kyle Shanahan's shown he's just going to sort of split it up no matter who he's got. But there's always a chance Coleman becomes more of the guy this week.
Just feels like
but for this week,
tougher runner.
Yeah. For this week, I think you play them both, especially since we saw Breida involved in the passing game like he was.
Right. Yeah, which was weird, but yeah, two good ones. But this will be. I mean, San Francisco backfield. We're on this a couple years now, of just sort of being a little bit of a
Jeff
nightmare.
Wilson Jr. inactive.
Yeah,
I know.
Tough for him.
Well, and Breida's running down, covering punts.
So was Mostert.
Yeah, which I thought was weird. For a guy who has an injury
Everyone's
history.
just chipping in, man.
Got to do what
Something
you got to do.
special happened in
Next
San
man up.
Francisco.
Right. They don't have a specialist like Matthew Slater. And
That's true.
what's your other guy? What's Gunner? What's his last
Gunnar
name?
Olszewski.
Why is that guy returning punts for us?
Who else would it be?
Gunnar Olszewski?
He's good at it.
No, he's not.
Who else would it be?
I don't
You
know.
want Brady back there?
No, yes, that's what I want. I mean, Edelman can go back there and return punts. He does have
They
the time
teach
anyway.
punt returning at Bemidji State very well.
If
Hockey school.
Tom Brady went back to return a punt,
Okay, that wouldn't happen.
what would
He's no
analysts
Taysom Hill.
say the next day?
What would they say in that moment?
It would,
Like, if
I
it was like a
speechless.
Booger game, like, what would Booger say?
He'd be like, I think this is a great move. This is Brady showing he can do whatever what he can to help the team. All right. Baker Mayfield, speaking of Monday night, Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., Baker looks terrible. OBJ, he looked good throwing. He looked better than Baker throwing the ball, I guess. But
And they're going to give him a throw every game, apparently.
everything else was bad. This team looks bad. It's funny, the one guy who
Nick Chubb doesn't look bad.
well, and Jarvis Landry's shown up the last couple of weeks,
True.
which is kind of interesting.
His numbers receiving from Odell Beckham Jr. passes are phenomenal this season.
It's a really high passer rating
How do you go 8 for 22 for 100 yards in today's NFL?
in today's NFL.
In today's
'Cause
NFL.
in yesterday's NFL, it happened, but today's
Do we have to
NFL,
remove the gunslinger from his?
just bad quarterback?
Yeah,
Well, okay.
gunslinger throws for more. Case Keenum throws for more than 100 yards.
Yeah.
I have a live, this was just replied to the Sporting News Fantasy Twitter account in regards to Baker Mayfield. Quote, I would never start Baker against anyone ever, all caps, again.
Well, that seems a little bold.
Probably starting against Miami.
Yeah, it seems a little bold.
But no, in all
Or
seriousness,
in like 3 years.
But like that's people obviously aren't happy.
through 5 games, 4 TDs, 8 picks. That's
Right.
horrible.
Yeah.
Like even the 8 TDs, like I feel like he should have. I mean, the 8 interceptions. You could have like 10 TDs, 8
Right,
interceptions.
right,
Like, all right,
right.
gunslinger.
Right, he's
4
taking
TDs,
chances.
4 TDs in 5 games.
Yeah, and one of
Yeah.
those was like a really bad, that Jets 90-yarder on that Monday night was just really bad coverage.
He's only
Right.
been over 60% completion percentage in 2 of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's just terrible.
Right. He looks. I mean, one, he looks inaccurate, and 2, 6 of his 8 interceptions have been just not seeing the coverage and just throwing it to a guy playing zone who's where he threw the football.
And I think the big thing is the offensive line is bad too. It's easy, especially
Yeah.
for fantasy people. They just look at the player on their team and say he sucks or whatever. But he's clearly not getting a lot of time in the pocket. It's affecting him. That could be affecting his throws. It certainly led to how many fumbles did he lose on Monday? 1 or 2. And so it's all sort of culminating in a bad spot. Now, the Seattle game at home, their defense is kind of average.
So I was going to give you my patented look ahead.
Right.
Here, tell you if
you're
it's
a
gonna,
schedule guy.
If it's going to get any better or any worse.
Hey, I was schedule guy this morning, and you called me out on it.
Were you?
When I picked up Pittsburgh for
3
for
weeks
week 8.
in advance.
Miami in
They
week 8,
play
bro.
Miami. You're going to hold them through their bye.
Yeah.
You're such a loser.
I'm such a planner.
You're such a loser.
And I'm looking past
can be both.
That was well, yes. Not mutually exclusive, but it was also a subtle message,
Well, in which
mind
way-
game that I'm already looking
But
past
in which
you.
way are you looking past me? Like that's just an automatic L for you?
No. I'm not worried about you. I don't
wouldn't
think
be.
about you.
I wouldn't be.
Put it that way.
All right, can I get back to Baker Mayfield and OBJ?
you guys bicker a lot for not
Please.
caring about each other.
So after Seattle, who's 16th in fantasy points against for quarterbacks, they go New England, 32nd, the fewest. Denver, the 29th. And,
Fourth fewest, or
Yes.
all right.
and Buffalo, 31st.
That's not good for anyone.
So
basically, he should be dropped, is what you're saying, because it ain't going to get better.
and there's a bye in there too.
Right, and you'll be able to get him back because he probably isn't having a big
I mean,
game.
you're looking at with the bye, you're looking at 5 possibly not startable
probable
weeks.
duds.
If you or like definite duds.
Right. I mean, he could have a good game, of course. He's got enough talented players around him, but it's not a good outlook.
He's definitely not a must start.
no.
He was
Well,
already
no.
not a must start. Now he might not even be a must have.
So drop
that
him.
schedule.
Let's drop him. So then what does that
I was
mean?
smart. I didn't draft him.
But then what about OBJ? Because we know obviously
You're not dropping him.
Well, thanks. Again, you're helpful this week. But yeah, I mean, and he is a must start. But I guess
Yeah.
the question is, should you try to trade him? Are there people out there who are going to be thinking, okay, I can get OBJ, I'm buying low. This sucker's trying to sell me.
Well, the receiver part of the equation is always weird, right?
course, only
Because
takes one.
the picks don't really hurt him.
Right.
Mayfield can throw a couple picks in the first quarter, and then they're playing catch up, and the receiver gets his anyway. So, but yeah, try and trade him, sure.
Yeah, especially if he went out and had a good game against Seattle, and you just said those next teams with their bye coming up. I mean, it'd be a good time to
OBJ
try.
for Tyler Lockett. You own Lockett, Billy. You wouldn't do it, right?
Seems like a better reach.
What does
If
that
you
mean?
offer, I would probably take OBJ for Tyler Lockett, honestly.
Okay, interesting.
But
Do you have OBJ?
no, I have Lockett.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't feel great about it. It would feel like I had to because he's OBJ.
Yeah. See, I think I'd rather have Lockett.
And you never know when the meltdown's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Especially if it keeps going bad like this.
That's the thing.
It's
Like
coming.
you never with these people in Cleveland.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
bad times. All right, let's go to the Chiefs wide receivers, where Sammy Watkins disappointed a whole lot of fantasy owners Sunday night with the old one series hammy
Didn't disappoint me.
out of the game. That's right. Tyreek Hill, we think, will be back from his shoulder injury this week. Getting close
He
anyway.
did practice today, didn't he?
He's getting close, whether it's this week, next week, sometime soon. Obviously, the whole Demarcus Robinson phenomenon seems to have died down. The Mecole Hardman phenomenon. Last week, we had a big Byron Pringle game out of nowhere. Patrick Mahomes is limping. So it's just one of those situations where it's not so much, obviously, when Hill's healthy, you play him. But those other guys, it's like, what do you really do with them on any given? Because it was always like, oh, they're going to light it up. Well, Mahomes has 1 touchdown the last 2 weeks.
I mean, it's not like we didn't kind of have, or that we haven't been kind of saying this all along. We
Right.
kind of said those guys are dart throws.
Right.
Like, yeah, a deep ball's probably going to happen, but is it going to be Hardman or is it going to be Robinson?
Right. Or Pringle.
Or now, like, but you know what I mean? Like, we all knew, like, yeah, if you need to start a flex or I guess a wide receiver 3 and you need to, you can pick one. But I don't think we ever felt great saying like this is a guy who's established the new number 2 in Kansas City or anything like that. It was like if they can hit a 40-yard bomb.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mahomes is overdue.
I know.
So I think this week they're coming. But, yeah, it's tough to
I predicted 4 or 5 from him last week, and that didn't happen.
So does that mean he's going to get like 7 or 8 this
Probably.
week?
I'm going against them.
They just keep going up every week. He doesn't.
I think my run is over
Doesn't
this week.
throw one? Oh, for Pete's sake.
It's like the lottery.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's an interesting situation. I don't know, like, are all those guys right now, as we sit here with Watkins sort of injury in limbo, even Hill injury in limbo, do you think all those guys should be owned, Billy? Robinson, Mecole Hardman, and we'll throw in Pringle.
I think Robinson and Hardman still should be, at least until we see sort of how the Hill return maybe affects things. I think it's hard to like give up on a guy in the Kansas City offense, like because they're in the Kansas City offense. You sort of want to see them like totally phased out. And Pringle's interesting. He'd only be interesting though, I think, if Hill and Watkins were out this weekend.
What'll be interesting is if Hill's back and Watkins out, because I feel like Hardman is the Hill guy.
Right, I think that pushes Hardman out, and it'd be interesting to see where.
I actually think Robinson then would step up more.
Yeah,
They're just going all streaks.
They might.
They're just going all streaks.
Kelsey running down the middle. All right, last one. A bunch of tight ends are either coming back or might be coming back or breaking out. You know, this is a bad position where Delaney Walker is fading away. We already talked about Cook and Burton and some of these guys preseason that were on the bubble. Now there's sort of new guys coming up. Got Chris Herndon possibly back from suspension this week, but he's got, was an ankle injury? Hammy. That maybe he won't play.
Hurt his hammy running routes by himself on Friday.
There you go.
Yeah, the air.
Which sounds sad on a lot of levels.
Was he doing? Was it like above the rim where it was out there with no ball?
I don't know.
You know?
I don't know if anyone was thrown to him.
Maybe.
He's running routes alone.
Maybe just all alone. So lonely. Hunter Henry might be back this week, but it sounds close either way. This week, maybe next. And old Jerry Everett is balling out right now for the Rams. He's a weird one to me because it just doesn't seem like they can support 4 receivers every week. But
well, if they get behind every game,
well, that's just it. But it's like maybe we always said this
Cooks
with the
is
receivers.
probably going to be out this week with concussion.
That theoretically could change things for sure. But yeah, he's a weird one about sort of trying to gauge his consistency.
He's had 19 targets the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Right. I mean, like you said, with the receivers, I don't think we ever felt like all 3 of them would have good games at the same time. It was always like, well, you can't sit any of them.
Right.
And I mean, Everett, maybe he just is sort of joining that pile where it's like, maybe sometimes the good games go to him.
Right.
You know, it's funny. Gurley's not getting the ball, so maybe he's the one that's missing out. Maybe he can't support 3 and 4 pass catchers because they're not running anymore.
Right.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, yeah, partially because they're getting down. So Henry, obviously Henry, I was surprised he was dropped in so many leagues. I mean, it was a 4 to 6 week injury, and he was down to 40% ownership in Yahoo. So, at this point, though, so both knees have had serious injuries the last 2 years. I think it's foolish to assume he's going to be what he was when people sort of really liked him, but he's still, we think, a good enough tight end. He should be a fantasy
I like him as a piece in that offense because Rivers is not throwing the ball deep. He's not. He's dumping everything off to Eckler. And you got to think that a tight end would play a similar role to that, like, just kind of over the middle type, dump off catches, whatever. If this guy can get healthy, the way Rivers is throwing, they're not throwing deep to Benjamin anymore.
No.
I mean, yeah, they'll throw some 15, 20-yard things to Allen and Williams, but they're not throwing that kind of Rivers long ball they used to. It's all dink and dunk stuff. So if he can get healthy, I think he can be nice in PPR leagues. I think it'll help Rivers out a little bit too.
Yeah, and Herndon's weird just because their offense is so different than when he was there last in terms of having Crowder, having Demaryius Thomas, who led him in targets last week, having Le'Veon Bell now. Obviously, Robbie Anderson's still there. It's tough to really assess what that offense is going to look like. And then obviously with Darnold being out for so long too, there's a whole lot of chemistry that still needs to take shape there.
Right.
And I'm kind of worrying this is going to be a lost season for Herndon. And he just might be fool's gold.
Yeah, it might be. He's certainly a guy that's sort of riding that hype of everybody in the preseason being like, yeah, when his 4-game suspension's over, like, you want Chris Herndon. But
we saw that work for Benjamin Watson.
I think the thing that concerns me the most is Demaryius having a role. Like, obviously, he wasn't there when Darnold played in week 1, so we don't really know how everything's going to break out. But, like, if you were sort of pointing at a guy that, like, could fill the same role as Chris Herndon, it's Demaryius Thomas, right? So if he's going to get 9 targets a week, like, Herndon's not.
Yeah. So
I felt like he was much better last year than the numbers indicate. Like when I went to look up his numbers from last year, I expected to see more than 39 catches.
Yeah, me too. I did that yesterday.
500 yards isn't bad for a rookie tight end. 4 TDs is good. And I went and checked; those were all from Darnold.
If I recall, because I owned him
39
for
catches
part
is
of
not a
last
lot.
year, I swear he had 2 touchdowns called back that should have been touchdowns, and they were like kind of in fantasy circles a big deal, like really bad. Like how did they overturn that or whatever it was? And so it always kind of seemed like, oh, Chris Herndon is getting in the end zone all the time,
But just the 39 catches,
No, I agree.
that's just not a lot
yeah,
for what I felt like he was last year.
it was a lot of off-season hype. Chris Herndon might be one of the fantasy goats, might be the new tight end Ryan Terrain. I don't know.
But it's also like one of those things. We talk about tight end every week. I mean, O.J. Howard's getting 3 or 4 targets a week, right?
He's coming up later.
So if Herndon
Did you see
averages
O.J. Howard last night
Oh yeah,
catching a foul ball?
and then first catch of the
didn't
year.
actually see that.
That's what someone tweeted. Yeah.
But I mean, if he gets 3 or 4 catches a game, like he's not that different than like the 11th or 12th tight end each
Right.
week, you know?
Right, exactly.
So
I
you
feel like
sort of have to like calibrate your brain to those numbers like the right way.
Well, I was perusing the tight end waiver wire in our league, and it's like every guy is like 3 catches, 31 yards.
Yep.
And then does he get in the end
apparently
zone or not?
That is what every like non-top whatever 5 tight end seems to be. I'm like, how do I even choose one?
Right.
They're all 3 for 31.
They're all the same. You just who might score that touchdown. All right, let's get into the good matchups, bad matchups. For week 6, the buys this week, Bills, Colts, Raiders, Bears. Kind of a sneaky good bye week. Not like good in the sense that there's a lot of good players. Each team has one really good receiver. They all got running backs that matter. Quarterbacks aren't bad. That's probably the biggest position where you get a little break. But Darren Waller, and I guess I don't know if people are still starting Eric Ebron, but so there's some guys there that matter for sure. And I think the big thing, some good defenses and some good offenses to stream defenses against. So that really weakens the defense rankings. But we'll start at quarterback. Looking the good matchups this week for borderline guys. Kyler Murray, he's in here every week one way or another, playing the Falcons at home. Gardner Minshew playing the Saints at home, and Kyle Allen playing the Bucks over in London. Just looking at those 3, I mean, how you feeling about them in terms of being which one would you actually feel comfortable starting?
I think they're in the order. I think the order you listed them is the order I'd go. Murray, Minshew, Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because this is a weird middle ground week where it's like Carson Wentz is at the Vikings. Not a great matchup. Our boy Aaron Rodgers, who we'll talk about in a second, is
He seems to be on the bad matchups like every week.
and he's not helping himself. At home against Detroit, at least it's a home game. Jared Goff, playing your boy, playing at home against San Francisco. I'm just reading the bad matchup guys now, so I'll say Goff, Wentz, Rodgers, and then I threw in Prescott. Statistically, the Jets are pretty good against quarterbacks, but that doesn't compute with my brain.
Everyone's done throwing at halftime against them.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. And Dak, I guess the question really, the reason I put him on there is he a must start? We've seen him kind of not be great a couple weeks. And I think after the first 3, when he beat up on 3 of the worst defenses in football, people are like,
I'm not benching him against the Jets.
No, for sure, not against the Jets. But I guess maybe sort of just in general, a concept of is Dak Prescott.
There are games where he's sittable.
benchable.
Sure.
The concept of benching.
Yes, that's right. So anyway, back to the good. So would you play Minshew over any of those 4? Not Dak. We'll throw Dak out, but Goff, Wentz, and Rodgers.
I'd play him over Aaron Rodgers, I think.
I agree.
Who's coming back for? Who's coming back?
I don't
for
think
Philly?
Deshaun's supposed to come back.
Deshaun's still going to be out.
Alshon will be there. Ertz will be there. Your boy Bug Hollins will be there. Fake Bug Hollins.
I'll put Wentz down. I mean, they don't look good.
Jeez. Take him out back? An old yeller, Carson Wentz?
They
Poor Carson.
their passing game is not in sync at all.
Right.
Shockingly, Jordan Howard actually
But Wentz is doesn't
good.
have terrible stats. Last
He
week
didn't do
was
anything last week.
well, yeah, that was against the Jets, who
Apparently shot
quarterback killing Jets.
At Minnesota. I don't love it.
Okay,
I
so
feel
you
like-
play Minshew over him.
I'd strongly consider it.
Okay,
Yeah.
would you play Kyle Allen over him?
Probably not.
Statistically, really good matchup.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
Sloppy field
might be a lot of
over.
McCaffrey.
So it's an
might be a lot of
sloppy field.
McCaffrey.
sure.
I mean, some of that obviously could be through the air, but I think the key with Minshew, I think, is he's not. I mean, unless he fumbles like he did last week, he's not going to really turn the ball over.
Well, I
And
see. I
gets you a
feel
couple
like
of
that's
rushing
coming
yards.
though.
I don't.
I mean, the guy's throwing one pick. It just
Because you're like,
he's
he
just
can't be
due.
that good, right?
But like,
Well, it's
he
just
puts
law of averages.
You watch him, man. He throws all these balls on the money.
I know.
It's like Mayfield's got 8 picks.
And he's got a little rushing floor, which like once in your head does, but I don't even know if he really does.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps.
No, I agree. I think I played.
You picked him up, right, Billy?
Yeah, I picked him up to play instead of Jameis Winston in that the Bucs in London against the Panthers. I mean, Winston's got a fine matchup.
Starting for you this week.
I've got Minshew in my lineup. Yeah.
I think that's the move.
Against Matt. Yeah.
Thanks for dropping Winston. I'm going to grab him.
I think
another
that's
week
the
or
move
so.
I'm using.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick him up in advance.
Of course you are. 7 weeks.
Put him on my bench with the Steelers. And Goff, are we worried about him at all? I mean,
Yeah, I'm worried about Goff every week, but like, it's funny. Like, I'm worried about this guy every time he drops back to pass.
Right.
But so far, at the end of the game, he's got some stats.
Well, that's Matt Ryan. I mean, Matt Ryan's
he's
like
got
that
some stats
times 10. Yeah.
So I'm kind of he's. Let's use it again. We used it last week. He's a little bit eyes wide shut.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I mean, he got me 20 last week.
Right.
Should have had he left a touchdown out there, but they got the skill players, and the biggest thing with them, they're refusing to run the ball.
Yeah, they run a little, but they don't run as much.
They don't run.
It feels like they should.
They don't run.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you know what? It is kind of like Matt. It's like, you know what?
Iceman puts it in the
like
air.
I'm worried about Goff every week, and every week I'm like, I got Goff.
I think Goff is pretty much a must start just because of the talent around him.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I feel about Ryan too. And
the talent and the scheme, like they want to throw all the time.
It feels that way, yeah. And so Rodgers is sort of the big question mark, of course.
And it's a
week.
home game.
So Rodgers this week at home against Detroit. I mean, his career numbers against Detroit are insane, but how much does that really matter, right? I always say that. And then just you look at what he's doing this year. We'll assume he gets Devontae Adams back. I feel there's a little bit of law averages here for Rodgers too, where, okay, Jones gets 4 rushing touchdowns last week. 2 of those could easily be throwing. It's just how
We're
it works
assuming
out.
that Adams is coming back. I thought that toe was
I don't know. I think he'll come back.
I think the latest was positive on Adams. But, Rodgers, I mean, again, we talk about it every single week. I don't feel like you got a lot of upside there.
Yeah, it does feel like the
with
ceiling's
Adams,
low.
Especially now that they saw none of Jones' touchdowns were super long, but they saw last week Aaron Jones keeps trying to hammer it into their head that he should get the ball more.
Right.
So
yeah,
and Rodgers was
tough.
Super happy after the game about his performance.
Well, let me take it to the next level. Should Rodgers be dropped? Like, why do you own him?
You can't do that.
Why? If you never want to start him, and you're like, this guy's low ceiling, and I never want to start him.
There's a good game in there. So where's Aaron friggin' Rodgers?
So what?
Oh, that's not.
I mean, I think the thing
choose to run my team.
I worry about stats, not names.
Okay.
That's just me.
Okay.
So there's something about Rodgers that feels like
hashtag stats, not names.
Real safe. Like if you've got another guy,
feels that way.
Well, he's gonna get you his 200 yards. I'm not even giving him the.
You'll get those 8 points every
200 and a touch.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Something about Aaron Rodgers on your team versus you can't go get your job. But he's definitely a guy I could see if it keeps up a few more weeks that people are going to say, man, what's this guy doing for me?
I'll say it. Droppable.
I said it all last year and avoid him like the plague this year.
Droppable. That's what I say for Aaron Rodgers.
Matt says drop.
Oh, wait,
Aaron
schedule
Rodgers.
guy. Give me Packers' upcoming schedule. Where are you on
I didn't research that. Come on
why
now.
not?
Let me do that for you.
They get the Raiders next week.
Okay.
Then they get a shootout with the Chiefs on primetime. Chargers, Panthers, 49ers.
Yeah, see, there's some points there. They got a Giants game in there, Redskins game in there.
All right.
Yeah, fantasy playoff.
Now, fantasy playoffs.
Oh, but then the Bears.
Chicago, Minnesota.
Oh, Dunzo.
Yeah, I mean,
Trade
you get
now.
So
But you got to sneak in with Giants, Redskins, right?
well, you win your last game against the Giants.
Yeah.
You win the first round against Washington. Then
See,
you
I'm
drop
normally
them.
on bye
Then
that
you
first
drop.
round.
Then
so I'm not worried. We're both going to
I
be on
booked
bye.
mine.
So
Booked
sure.
my bye.
I'll take
booked
Aaron
a
Rodgers
vacation
from
that
wherever.
weekend.
Yeah, totally.
You bringing Goff with you? Seems like a fun vacation guy.
Yeah.
Any chance I get to bench
All right.
Goff,
Well, there you go.
to take a bye on Goff, I'm
Aaron
taking.
Rodgers. All right, let's move to running back. Good matchups. My boy Adrian
Oh, you've been
Peterson.
waiting. You couldn't wait to type this one out.
So excited that Dolphins matchup.
We're going to have to talk about him.
He's
at the
on
start of the
waivers
podcast
in
next
my
week.
10-team PPR.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I'm wondering if he's going to get picked up tonight.
I mean, for this
I
week.
think he might not get
For this
picked
week.
up. This is it. Take him out of the game if he doesn't get picked up for this one.
For real. Kenyon Drake on the other side of that against Washington. 49ers backs. You already talked about them against the Rams. And then I threw an old Gus the Bus Edwards. I feel like this is a
You
game.
don't want to throw Justice Hill in this time?
No, not this time. Week 1 was different, but against Cincinnati. Bad matchups. John Hilleman, you know him, playing the
We really don't, though.
playing the Patriots. We got the Eagles guys at Minnesota. We got the Broncos guys versus Tennessee, and the Falcons guys at Arizona. Statistically, a bad matchup. Another one that doesn't feel like it really is, but I don't know. The fact that those guys aren't very good, I think maybe then makes it a bad matchup. We'll start with the good. So Adrian Peterson, Billy just thinks he's cooked, and even against the Dolphins.
Am I the only one on this podcast who thinks he's cooked?
No, but I'm going to upgrade him. So I'm going to upgrade him from his normal 23 rushing yards.
No, his average in 4 starts, 11 carries, 27 yards.
Okay, I think he can break 40 against the Dolphins.
Okay.
I think game script will be in his favor for a while.
Right.
And I think he can get 40, 45 yards. Maybe 50.
Okay. Can he get a touchdown?
Yeah, he can definitely get a touchdown.
Okay.
He has got more chance of getting a touchdown than getting 75 rushing yards.
Agreed.
Maybe. I don't know. The Dolphins allow almost 160
He puts
rushing
up
yards
tight
a
end
game.
lines at running back, like 27 yards
If
and
I
a
had a
touchdown.
tight end get 11 catches, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, like he puts up yards and touchdowns like tight ends.
He doesn't put up
31
many touchdowns.
and a touch. 27
He's the Tyler Eifert of running backs.
I mean, yeah. So he's tough. Obviously, I thought he would do better against it. You know, it's weird with the Giants, another team that we think of as just a horrible defense, and then you look at the numbers, and their rush defense isn't like terrible, but it's not great. So yeah, he should have done better that game too. But they just fall in these
Matt,
holes, and it's over.
Who do you think wants this game more, Miami or Washington? Like, who's tanking more?
I think Miami wants it more because they've been such a laughing stock.
but Washington first game with the interim, you think they'd get a little fired up and try?
they're
Yeah, there's
saying
usually a dead cat bounce.
And they're saying
in those.
Keenum might start, which probably gives him the best chance to win.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
All right, Matt, here's my question for you. I know you're not facing this scenario in our league, but you have Royce Freeman, who we've got on the bad matchups here, and you have Matt Breida, who we've talked about that.
Right.
Would you, if you had the choice to play Adrian Peterson over either of them, would you do it?
Yes, I'd play him over both. Definitely play him over Freeman. I wouldn't even think twice about that, even though Freeman's a steady 15 touches, 70 total yards guy.
Yeah.
Very consistent with a medium floor.
Consistently mediocre.
Very much so. He's Aaron Rodgers. That's what I said to you. I said he's the Aaron Rodgers
I
of
said
running
that
backs.
to you.
He's a 40.
No, I said that
Or he's a
part, and then you said if you flipped it, it sounds way
I
worse.
said both parts of that sentence.
No, you did not.
I'm pretty sure.
No,
I'm
what
pretty
did he say?
positive.
I don't take credit for other people's stuff, so that
What did he say?
Somehow we had a conversation that Royce Freeman is the Aaron Rodgers of running backs, so Aaron Rodgers is the Royce Freeman of quarterbacks, and he's taking the first part of it and saying that I just flipped it and like made it sound cooler, and I'm pretty sure I said the whole thing.
boy, this is. I wish.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can say Royce Freeman is the Aaron Rodgers of anything, though, just based on the Aaron Rodgers like
That's the joke.
history of life. No, you know what he is, and I forget now if it's 40 degree or 50 degree. Like Royce Freeman's is. What's the line from The Wire? Is it a 40 degree day?
Yeah, something like that.
Like Royce Freeman's a 40 degree day.
Yeah, it's about that.
Like him and his 68 yards a game. Like,
Yeah.
what is it?
So anyway, I think Adrian Peterson should be played this week, but that's just me.
No, I mean you can definitely play him against Miami. They're
Miami's
bad.
so bad, over 30 fantasy points a game.
What about the flip side? What about Drake?
Yeah, I mean it's weird. Don't you feel like Miami could be a weird team that they come out of the bye and just all of a sudden they're bound and determined to pound Mark Walton or Caleb Balaj, or just they're doing something weird that we don't expect?
No.
Balaj is out.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't play him.
Drake's a better play than Peterson this week for me, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that
Like,
because it feels like, okay, that's their best player, so they should try to get him the ball as much as possible, but they've been
needs
weird
to
about it
throw-
all year.
Miami needs to throw like the baseball diamond back on the field because I feel like that's when you get weird stuff to happen at your
Sure.
games. You
Yeah,
know,
true.
like
No traction?
yeah, that's what they should do.
Yeah.
They want to go home.
here's
field
another
advantage.
question
They
for
should
you.
do that.
Since we're just in this shitty game right now, would you start Chris Thompson or AP in not a full point PPR, half or standard, pick whichever one?
I don't know, start AP.
I think I would start Chris Thompson. I think he gets more fantasy points this week agaast the Dolphins. Even
This
I mean,
isn't a Chris Thompson game though.
I know it's not a game script for Chris Thompson. I still think
Why
he has a
Darius
better game
guys
than
have to
AP.
get hurt, man?
Yeah, it ruined everything. You'd have him this week and he'd go off.
I just wanted to talk about it to start a podcast next week. Chris Thompson, better game than AP.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. It comes down to who can fall in the end zone, I think. If Chris Thompson can take a swing pass like 30 yards for a touchdown, or if AP can get in there on a short one. But, yeah, I mean, when those two teams play each other, you throw the records out the window because you don't know what's going to
What
happen.
records?
How many people are tuning in that one? And what announcers are going to
It's
do
a
that
regional
one?
game.
Who gets stuck
That's
announcing
the
that
definition
game?
of a regional game, I think. I'll throw this one on there. Old Gus Edwards against the Bengals. They're bad enough. I feel like they can support two backs, especially from a team that runs as much. You know, the Bengals are also giving up over 30 fantasy points a game. And, you know, is that a game? Yeah, I don't know if the Ravens blow anyone out. Honestly, I don't know if their defense is good enough to allow for that. But it does feel like we're going to see a whole lot of carries in this game from the Ravens. Gus Edwards is good for, 6-7 a game. Maybe punch it up a little bit if you think this might be a blowout. Any reason to take a shot with him this week?
You'd have to be in really bad spot.
desperate, I think.
All right.
Really desperate.
Like, I would play AP over Gus Edwards.
Like Matt
and we
was
just
just desperate.
I'm not that desperate. I have Royce Freeman. I'm okay. I have the Aaron Rodgers of running backs. Okay, I think I'm going to be okay here. All right, go to the bad ones. We mentioned Hilleman, starting running back.
can't play him.
Can I admit I thought it was Hillman?
Sure.
Cool.
You thought it was Dalvin Hodges too this morning.
Well, Dalvin Hodges sounded like a nice mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
Delvin Hodges.
Devlin.
You're getting closer, but still not right. So Hilleman, I mean,
No chance.
They might get 2 first downs the whole game.
how? Look, people, we were saying, I can't remember if it was here, but other people were saying like the Raiders are going to get shut out this week by the Bears.
Totally different scenario.
Okay.
The Raiders are still fielding like professionals at positions.
Okay, John Hilleman's not a professional?
Barely.
He's a scab? Did
Barely.
he cross the picket line?
I mean, listen, the Raiders, we did not think the Raiders had
went-
good.
To Rutgers.
Okay.
Well,
Big
so-
Ten
so
school.
Ray Rice.
Big Ten school.
He was all right.
So Kenny
I
Britt.
don't see Ray Rice in an NFL backfield right now.
But here's the thing.
Kenny Britt.
The Raiders, we thought that was a bad matchup. It was a bad matchup on paper.
Yeah.
But they're still starting a first-round pick at running back, a legitimate startable NFL quarterback.
Not Daniel Jones isn't?
What's this, his 4th start?
Yeah.
That was pretty whimpering.
I don't
Yes.
know.
You were Mr. Danny Dimes a couple weeks ago.
That was definitely me.
He doesn't have his number one receiver, his number one tight end, who's somewhat of his number one receiver. Still doesn't have Barkley. Not going to have the Gall man.
Right.
He's got Golden Tate. Okay, great.
Red
No
Ellison.
rapport with him. He was
Darius
on suspension.
Slayton.
Yeah, I'll
Cody
pass
Latimer.
on. I mean, are you really you're going to defend Hilleman?
He's a starting NFL running back. I don't know what to tell you.
The game script.
Would you rather start Gus Edwards or John Hillman?
I would
Neither.
start-
There has to be someone else out
You
there.
can't say neither.
You can.
I would start Hilleman.
You'd rather take the zero.
There's
in
someone
your
else out
spot.
there that can get.
Those are your only two choices, are those two.
They can't be. There's other people on the waiver wire.
Like
I'd rather
who?
start Chase Edmonds.
Okay.
Okay,
He
fair.
got picked up.
Okay, so these are the last two.
Mark Walton or
I'd
Kalen
rather
Ballage.
start- I'd rather-
Kalen Ballage is out there too. with
You
Mark
have
Walton.
Kalen
No,
Ballage.
I'll go Ito Smith.
In our imaginary
I'll take for
scenario.
your bad matchups. I'll go Ito Smith.
Okay. You'd rather have Ito Smith than John Hillman.
Absolutely. I'll
Yeah,
start
so
both.
would I.
I'll start both Eagles in your bad matchups over Hillman.
Hilleman,
Yeah, well, I agree with that.
I'll start both Broncos easy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hilleman is going to have 12 carries for 30 yards. and
Pretty
no
good.
touchdowns.
Tight end.
I'd say. You know what? I might take.
If I could start John Hilleman in my tight end spot, I'd
I
consider
think John
it.
Hillman's going to shock the world tomorrow night.
He won't. I don't think he'll have 30 rushing yards. Maybe 30 total yards, but not 30 rushing.
When he
yards.
goes full Jonas Gray in Belichick's face, then you're
And gets 38 carries for 47 yards because they can't move the ball.
can't wait to see it, man.
Will they run 38 offensive plays tomorrow?
Yes, it's not going to be as bad as you think.
Yeah, it
If
might
I know
be.
Belichick, he'll take it easy.
You don't know, but you
Because
don't
the
know
Patriots are gonna take it
Belichick.
easy on the Giants.
They'll take it easy. They have no.
Will Eli Manning play it down?
I mean,
They should just start Eli.
First game.
That'll give them the best chance away.
Well, right.
first flag. They should just throw the fear of God into the pass.
I mean, they might as well bring back Manningham and Tyree and Plax and all those guys.
right?
Yeah.
Strahan.
He's busy. Strahan is definitely busy.
Yeah. All right. Well, so's Gronk now. They're coworkers, colleagues. All right. Eagles guys. Miles Sanders, I feel now is just a stash. I mean,
Well,
I don't
with
think you
Sproles
can play him.
out, with Sproles out, he potentially takes on a little more of the receiving
I mean, yeah.
stuff.
More snaps. I don't know. It's not like Sproles is putting up big numbers.
No, but Sanders was already doing okay in the
Right.
passing game. He can get 4
Yeah.
catches for 35 yards every game with a little bit of rushing.
Yeah. He's. I don't know. He's been really
It's disappointing for sure. And Howard looks actually
I mean,
good
3
now.
straight games with a touchdown for Howard. I feel like
No, he
if that
looks
streak's
good.
end. Well, no, I know. Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
He looks good while doing
Looks
it.
good
but,
doing it.
But I don't like either of them this week to play. Now, I would play them over John Hilleman if that's
I'd
what
play
you're
them both
asking.
over Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, see, that I wouldn't. That one, I'd just take the matchup. But, I mean, I obviously get it. Much better offense and looked a whole lot sprier. So that's a weird one. I think Phillip Lindsay has proven himself to be, you start him every week. But those touches are still, like, equal. And it's kind of troubling, I think, for Lindsay owners. It's got to be annoying because at some point he's probably not going to have as many, good runs, and that'll really limit his ceiling. So in a statistically tough matchup against Tennessee, is there any worry about him?
There's worry, but not enough to take him out of your lineup.
Yeah, I don't think you're in a spot where you've got a better option than him in whatever spot he's been in.
Right, yeah, and we already talked about Freeman. And then the Falcons guys, I mean, I don't know what to do with these guys anymore.
They don't really run the ball either. They don't run it well. I still think Ito's going to take, like, not necessarily the job, but I think he's going to start out touching him eventually.
But that's what it's like. It's like Ronald Jones all over. It's like it feels like fantasy owners are trying to speak that into existence. I just don't think it's gonna. I just think Freeman, too much of a rep, makes too much money, and he's useful. I mean, it's just they can't run the ball. They just can't, and he seems to be the better receiver, or at least the one they prefer. But as far as starting either of them this week, again, Arizona against the run has pretty strong numbers, even though we think of them as just a bad all-around defense, and there's going to be a lot of plays. But they're allowing 16.6 fantasy points a game to running backs. Nothing special. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean...
It feels like Devontae's a flex, and I think Ito's on the bench for almost everyone. But
yeah. It does feel like there's a lot of points in that game. It's hard to like if Freeman's your only guy and like you've been starting him, I feel like you still got to start him.
Yeah, but that's just that game. We Eric and I were talking about this earlier. Weird stuff's going to happen in that game.
Oh, for sure. The old 4 o'clock in Arizona with two bad defenses.
There's going to be weirder stuff in that Miami-Washington game.
Yeah.
No, there's going to be nothing happening in that Miami-Washington game.
That's true.
No, there will be. There'll be like a McLaurin 80-yarder. There'll be a Preston Williams.
Unless they break out the baseball diamond, nothing weird's happening in that game.
They should just artificially make a baseball diamond.
Just paint brown.
For no reason.
Paint some brown on the green grass.
Yeah, like,
no one would notice. No one would care.
No one's going to be watching. That's true.
Yeah. I do think there's a lot of retirees down in the Miami area from, that are probably Redskins fans, but would they actually go to this game is another question.
I wouldn't. I'd stay home.
That's a weird theory to have.
What?
There's a lot of Redskins fans retired near Miami.
I don't think. I mean, there's
from the Northeast. He's retired in Miami.
Yeah, I mean,
right. But like, what's different than that? Than like a different game?
I mean, I would
Miami
say
plays?
Boston. I would say Boston people, New York people.
All right.
But
Pittsburgh people. It's probably Cowboy fans down there.
Well, there's Cowboys fans everywhere. There's Pittsburgh fans everywhere. Green Bay fans everywhere. No Miami fans anywhere.
Not even at their own stadium.
All right, let's go to wide receiver. The Arizona guys, if Christian Kirk's back, if not, Keyshawn Johnson, maybe both, even if they are both back facing Atlanta. The 2 Miami receivers, Preston Williams, Devontae Parker, playing the Redskins. Curtis Samuel, who I think has been a little bit of a disappointment this year for as much preseason hype as he's gotten. He'll be in London against the Bucks. Stefon Diggs making this list. Again, he's probably, if he saw this list, he'd say, I'm on the list with those guys. But he's facing the Eagles, one of the worst pass defenses. And D.D. Westbrook's had a little bit of a revival lately. It's not all DJ Chark there, but it's mostly DJ Chark there. So he's facing the Saints at home. So when you look at that group, there are any that jump out like, oh, that's a must start. I mean, I think Diggs is.
I feel pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about Diggs. Home game, they got the passing game off a little bit better last week. I know Thielen did most of it, but Philly's secondary is just bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
5th most fantasy points to receivers, and that was after a Jets game.
And Philly's front four is actually pretty good, so they might not have. I mean, I'm sure Cook will get his, but they might have to throw. They may want to throw the ball a little bit more.
But it feels like there's a disconnect going on with Diggs and Cousins, and just it doesn't feel like a good situation. And then you hear the rumors, and I don't know. I don't know if that matters. I mean, you would have thought that, okay, let's try to smooth things over, force him the ball last week in an equally great matchup, and he had 3 catches.
Yeah, it is weird. It does feel like one of these weeks will force him the ball. I mean, he's been a guy for them for a couple of years now. It's bizarre that even if he's a little unhappy, that like they would put him on the field and then just not involve him. It's as good a game as any for him to get going.
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely have to start him, but it is a weird situation. I really like Kirk if he's active. He was getting over 9 targets a game when he was playing before he had the ankle injury last week. Like you said earlier, Eric, they don't throw it deep, and that's really what's been killing Atlanta these past 2 weeks with A.J. Brown and obviously Will Fuller. But at the same time, they're going to throw it a lot.
They throw it a lot. They don't throw it deep, and they can't really get it in the end zone. No, that's the other thing.
Well, I mean, it feels like against Atlanta, there's going to be some more like broken, big plays.
That game's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Absolute disaster.
It's going to be a fantasy bonanza, though. Fantasy bonanza.
It's going to be a disaster. Did anyone see Atlanta and Houston last week?
Yeah.
Another disaster.
Oh, not for me. I was loving it.
No, I was loving it too.
His Will Fuller celebration in the office for the 3rd touchdown when you weren't expecting it was like legendary. He did one of those like hockey, like get low and
I was on one leg. It really.
Did you need it at that point?
Oh, you always need it. And
exciting.
as I explained to him, it was a situation, right, where it's like, oh, they get the first down and then they kneel it 3 times and that's it. By scoring the touchdown, it gave the old Iceman another minute 30.
Yes,
he threw a pick,
yeah.
But still, it was
Yeah, I put Fuller and Michael Thomas on my opponent last week.
Put him on.
Nothing
him.
like getting almost 100 points from
Yeah.
2 guys.
So if Kirk plays, can you start Keyshawn Johnson too?
No.
Too risky, right?
The snaps earlier in the season were weird where like Keyshawn wasn't necessarily the third guy when
Bird was involved too.
Yeah, Bird was there. They like that
Yeah.
Sherfield guy. I'm more
Listen to
like-
these names.
no, but Keyshawn is interesting in deeper leagues if Kirk's out.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, the 2 Miami guys, Preston and Parker, they've been running pretty even. Parker had the one, he was shut out, but otherwise he's been a little bit higher scorer on average. I guess Preston Williams has been a little more consistent in that 7-point-ish range. Against Washington, though, I think you can run them both out.
I love you got all these Miami guys against Washington, and it's like you just assume like Washington is bad.
Yes.
But you're like totally discounting the fact that Miami's bad.
No, I'm
and
not.
that this game
discounting
might be
that.
13-10.
That's why they're on the list. They're not just like
it
auto
might be a 13-10 snooze fest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Washington, and I actually think Washington's defense is a little better than it showed. At least it's run defense, but I think its pass defense is terrible, and that's why I think
They
both
got
these
after
guys
Brady
are
a
in
little bit
play.
last week, though.
A little bit.
They did make that Mitchell Trubisky guy look good though.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I like the Miami receivers this week.
Yeah, me too.
I think Williams probably gets a few more targets. I think Parker maybe a little more of a big play guy. I don't know. If, PPR, maybe that means you favor Williams ever so slightly. But in our league, I'm starting Preston Williams. I'm in a weird bye week bind, but I like them both.
Right. All right. Curtis Samuel. He had a big week 2 against Tampa. 5 catches on 13 targets. That was when Cam couldn't hit anything, but he still caught 5 for 91 yards. He scored the next week against Arizona. It looked like, okay, this guy's legit. Last 2 weeks, 3 for 32, 3 for 19. Targets 7 and 6. They're still decent. But how do you view him now? Is he just sort of he's a bench receiver?
Yeah, I still think he's one of those not quite dart throw guys, but he's not a waiver wire guy. He's on your bench. Guess he's a bye week fill-in. You hope for the best. Right. I'm not I don't think I go into a game with him, even in a good matchup. It's like, no, I feel good he's going to get the ball a lot. Like, he's just one of those receivers that we have in fantasy football that's like, if I got to play him, I play him. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, compare him to, on the bad side, we have, the Broncos guys. So let's just say Cortland Sutton. Let's say both Cortland Sutton and Emmanuel Sanders. I would play him over both this week. But, Sutton's been really good.
I feel like I'd play both Broncos
Really?
over him.
I would definitely play Samuel over Sanders. Sutton's been getting so much love there that he's tough to sit, but that Titans pass defense has been good. And I do think Samuel probably, I don't know. I think I'll have a good game this week.
Sanders is on the every other game plan.
Yeah, he's had 2 duds. In between was a 100-yard
he's
game.
2.
Well, yeah, that's one way to look at it. Had a lower snap share last week, so that's also kind of interesting. Last one we had was D.D. Westbrook. Last two weeks sort of come to life a little bit. Had 11 targets last week, caught 7 for 82 yards, 66 yards the week before on 5 catches, 6 targets. It's tough. It's just Chark seems to get everything. And obviously Fournette's playing well, and they're using him a lot too, even as a receiver. So is there any reason to think is Westbrook a poor man's Curtis Samuel, who we already were lukewarm
I
on?
don't know what he is. Because, you would think they don't have the offense that can support all these guys, right? But they also don't have a lot of players to they really don't have to support D.D., Chark, and Fournette.
Right.
So if Minshew throws for
300 yards,
not even 225 yards, but it's it's one of those offenses that I feel like it only goes to those 3 players. So I don't necessarily think there's going to be a lot of TDs there, but I think he's going to get his targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Westbrook probably isn't a big touchdown guy. We've seen that, but I think that's really true. Minshew pretty much has eyes only for Chark when it gets down there, or they hand the ball off. But yeah, 8 to 10 targets, that 6 or 7 catches. Especially in PPI, that'll have you a good day.
Right. So
Would you rather? Let me ask you. Would you rather have just going forward for the next X amount of time, whatever, D.D. or Auden Tate?
Auden Tate.
I made that exact decision last week. Straight up drop.
There
And
you
then
go.
Westbrook
I
kinda
call those personal trades.
And then Westbrook kind of did good, and I was like, should I kept him?
That one's interesting just because if guys come back, Tate could fall out of a role.
Could.
But in the short term, I think I'd rather have Tate too.
Yeah.
But Ross is on IR now, right? So
Yeah, he can
it's
come
that-
back way late.
That's
yeah,
8
like
weeks.
Right.
He's got 8 weeks.
Nah,
AJ Green.
It's all about Adriel Jeremiah.
He got no reason to come back. All right, the bad matchups this week: the Jets receivers against the Cowboys, the Packers guys against the Lions, DK Metcalf against Cleveland's bad on. Every week I hear about how banged up Cleveland's secondary is, and every week their numbers against receivers are really good. So it's kind of a weird thing. And then we already talked about the Broncos guys against Tennessee. With the Jets guys, everyone is pointing to Darnold's back. He threw to Crowder 17 times in week 1. Again, though, like I was saying with Herndon, and maybe Herndon's out this week, but things are just kind of different now. Like, first of all, Darnold's just been out for a long time. Thomas is there. How much does he matter if Herndon's there? I don't think you can just automatically expect Crowder to be his go-to guy again.
No, or that you can expect anything from. Like, I think Darnold's got a decent chance at a decent future in the NFL,
Right.
but he didn't play 16 games last year.
Right.
He's played 1 game this year. So he hasn't played 16 games in the NFL yet.
Right.
He's still, he's not a rookie anymore, but he's missing practice time. He's missing reps. Like, we talk about these guys, young quarterbacks. He's one of them, right?
He's still going to be worried about his spleen, too.
He hasn't played a lot yet.
Right.
Like, Josh Allen's still going through that, and we're like, he's pretty good. Like, these guys are still going through that.
Right.
And like I said, he hasn't even played 16 games in the NFL yet.
Yeah, I
So,
don't
I would
like
just
any of those guys.
Be
this
worried
week.
about the Jets in general. Like, yeah, some guys are going to get some stats, but I don't think we know it. I guess my point is I don't think we know anything about them yet.
Yeah.
No, I only like Le'Veon on that team. The Packers guys, so let's do this if Adams is out.
Okay.
MVS was supposed to be the number one last week, didn't do anything. It was just, it's tough to handicap that
crapshoot.
team.
I think MVS is the only one I would play, though. Allison's been bad all season, playing consistently out of the slot. You're not going to do anything with, like, Kumaro. MVS is a deep guy. He got close to connecting on a deep ball last week. I think he's the one that, like, could get you, like, a really good game. Allison could have, like, 4 for 50, maybe. But
And then if Adams plays, don't worry about the rest of them.
I think that's probably true. If you're in a bind, MVS, like, again, since he's a big play guy, you could use him, but that's probably
If
true.
you play him, you're banking on Rodgers getting the lines to jump off sides
Free play,
and
yeah.
throwing deep on the free play.
Yep,
That's
you
what
need
it's
it.
down to.
But the thing is, and we see this every year, there's a million receivers that are in that wide receiver 3 or flex thing, and they might have a game, they might not, but they're just all in that same bucket.
Yeah.
Of just like, he's a dude.
He is a dude.
He plays. They throw to him sometimes. Is this week when he's going to get one?
Yeah, and DK Metcalf, maybe he's in that bucket too.
He's there, yeah.
He's been up and down, but this week, it doesn't feel like Cleveland's a bad matchup. On paper, it says they are against wide receivers. I don't know. Does that bother you at all? Or do you just say he's playing with maybe the best quarterback in the NFL or certainly a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, so I'm going to ride with him most weeks?
It's not enough of a matchup to change my mind on him. It's where he falls on my kind of
His
receiver
catches
depth
the
chart.
last 3 weeks, 2-1-2.
Yeah, that's more of a problem to me than his matchup.
Right.
Yeah, I
They
agree
don't
with
throw
that.
the ball a ton. When they do it, most of the time
Will
it's Lockett.
Dissly.
It's Dissly and Lockett.
That's right. So, that's a tough one. We already talked about the Broncos, so we kind of know where we stand on them. Let's go to tight end. That awful, awful position.
Speaking of the Broncos, segue
right.
in.
That's
like a
right.
pro.
Big Noah Fant playing Tennessee. This is the one. They don't allow anything to wide receivers or backs, but they do. They can
Funnel it all to the middle.
That's right. An old funnel defense. So Noah Fant, who we talked about last week, is having a good matchup, and he did nothing. We'll see if he can do it this week. Vernon Davis, assuming he's back against Miami. Mike Gesicki, your boy from last year, Eric.
I can't believe he made this list.
Playing the Redskins, and then old Vance McDonald in a statistically favorable matchup, but with Delvin slash Devlin Hodges against the Chargers.
I was like, why is Gesicki on this list? Let me look up his game log. Maybe there's something there because I haven't really, admittedly,
It ain't even 3 for 31, Fred.
haven't really been watching much Miami, and I'm like, why did Matt even put this guy on the list?
The only
Like,
reason is because Billy likes him this week.
I saw some ones in there,
It sucks.
some ones,
But Billy likes
some
him
one
this
catch
week,
games.
I don't know. He plays a lot, and we've
There you go.
He works up a sweat every week.
We've spent like so long talking about this Washington Miami game that's going to be a shit show that like if we're going to talk about a shit show position that is tight end for like half the owners in every fantasy league, like Mike Gesicki can go on the list.
Right.
Like I would play Fant over him. I would play Vernon Davis over him. I would play Vance McDonald over him. But maybe there's somebody out there.
The real
who needs
question
Mike
is,
Gesicki.
would you play Gesicki over? We really only have two guys that matter on the bad matchups, which is Gerald Everett against the Niners and O.J. Howard against the Panthers.
No, but like
Right.
I still there's something there. Like if he's gonna have a decent game, it's
DFS
it's this
start
week.
throw.
Yeah, I don't mind that. 16-team league tight end.
Sure.
I mean,
Would you guys play Fant or Cook?
I would play Fant.
I think I'd play Cook, but I mean, I don't like any of it.
Yeah.
I think Fant, probably there's more reason to play him. So O.J. Howard, I guess he's the question. If we're going to throw out the old droppable list,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
O.J. Howard, right? He's got to be droppable at this point. But you just, again, it's a tight end, and I think you hate him. You go to drop him, and then you think, well, who am I playing that's better?
Right, that's the problem.
Who am I picking up?
Like you're like,
And
well,
then you talk yourself into regression. Well,
Yeah.
he can't be this bad forever. I sat through his bad weeks.
Right.
you're certainly like, if I'm going to get 2 for 20 from somebody every week at the tight end position, like you want the guy that you've seen do more than
Might
2
as
for
well
20
be the
before.
cool guy.
Like
Yeah.
maybe he'll have 1 or 2 of those at some point. I don't think he will.
I
but-
like that he caught that ball barehanded at the game last night.
Big. That was big for his future fantasy
Man, I'm just
value.
mad that I missed this.
Yeah.
What point of the game did this happen in?
Late because I only saw.
Yeah,
the
because
last,
I wasn't
3
watching
innings
late.
or
That's
so.
too bad.
Something like that. Yeah, Gerald Everett this week, tough matchup on paper. Feels like he's going to, everyone's on him, everyone's excited.
Yeah, he's got a couple things working against him. He's
Yeah.
got the tough matchup. He's had 2 good games in a row. Really big game last week. And he's got the whole, he's about to be on everyone's team.
Right.
So
Feels like a prime
this-
Gerald Everett
This
bus game.
screams letdown.
And
Yeah.
Tyler Higbee getting a 4-yard touchdown as everyone is upset. So that's
as
yeah.
I waiver claim Everett tonight.
So I know a lot of people. I mean, I just picked up Everett this morning on waivers this morning, and a lot of people are picking him up. And these guys in our good matchups, besides McDonald, Fant, Vernon Davis, and Gesicki, are probably pretty widely available. I think I'd play Everett over all of them.
Yeah, I think so.
So
It's tough to.
So that's sort of where you're picking out there. I mean,
Yeah,
somebody with
well, you burned a waiver claim on him. You must like him.
I'm still got a losing record. I'm not like playing the save my waiver claim game. I just got to get the guys I want.
Well, I'm kind of glad you grabbed him, so I didn't have to.
There you go.
You're welcome.
Yeah, works out like that sometimes. Defense. It's a bad defense week.
Oh God! Start off with the Redskins, of course.
Redskins at
definitely bad
Miami.
defense.
Well, it is, right? I mean, that's a good matchup. And
Meanwhile, you mentioned all the Miami guys.
Well, that's what
Why
I'm
didn't we
saying.
talk
What do
about Paul Richardson and Trey Quinn at receiver?
well, again, Miami. We think about how bad their defense is. It's really just running that they've given up because they're getting killed. So teams just run it the second half against them. I would assume you could throw on them too. But I mean, again, you talk about guys who don't do anything. Trey Quinn and Paul Richardson don't do anything.
Paul Rich had a big game a couple weeks ago.
A couple weeks
He was
ago,
in your
that
waiver
Monday
thing.
night.
You wrote about him.
Yeah, against the Bears, no less.
Yeah.
We had Trey Quinn ticketed for 100 receptions this year.
Real disappointment on that Trey Quinn.
You still own Trey
bandwagon.
Quinn.
No, I dropped him.
Not as of today.
Dropped him for the Pittsburgh defense for Week 8.
Wait, how many defenses do you have on your roster now?
Doesn't matter.
feel
You
like
have 3.
Doesn't matter.
You have the
like you have
Saints and
matter,
Pittsburgh
though.
and
Doesn't
whichever
matter.
one you're playing this
Doesn't
week.
matter. Doesn't matter. My
And the
starters-
It must be a
Skins.
nice luxury, though, to be this deep into the season and be able to still have a guy who's droppable like Trey Quinn on your team.
Yeah, you
Must be nice.
wouldn't know that feeling.
Yeah,
You just got
I don't
nothing
know.
but stud starters.
No, I only dropped a guy today that hasn't been active yet this year. I don't think.
That's right. The good matchups: Redskins against the Dolphins, Ravens against the Bengals. Ravens really bad this year. Quietly,
they're not a good
very
defense.
bad. Seahawks against the Browns, turnover-prone Browns. I don't know if the Chiefs Houston's a good matchup. They give up a lot of sacks. Houston, I think Kansas. It's funny, Kansas City's pass rush really isn't there this year the way it's been in years past. But I think they can get sacks in this game, and there'll be some mistakes, but they're going to give up points, and that makes it tough to start them. The bad, I think, 49ers Rams. Maybe it's not bad. I mean, we've seen Goff had some real bad.
Stop trying to say
Performances.
Goff's not. He hasn't been real bad.
Well, the turnovers against
Yeah.
Tampa, and he's had some other turnovers. And Vikings and Eagles, those are two defenses owned in a lot of leagues and playing each other in not great matchups. And the Texans, I don't know if people care about them anymore against Chiefs. I don't. It's like I guess Seahawks are maybe the most bubble one of that group at Cleveland. But I feel like you just play teams against Cleveland now until they
Yeah.
right the
Yeah.
ship.
I hate doing it on the road, but
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's really
none of these are that
here.
inspiring. Yeah, I mean, the
it's
Ravens,
a
I
bad
guess, at
league.
home, but they're not that good of a D. We talked about this.
No,
they
but
get thrown on.
Cincinnati's rough.
Yeah.
But that one, yeah, they get run on too. They're giving up 5 yards a carry to running backs. It's really bad.
Ed Reed's not walking through that door.
I've heard that before. Ray Lewis, is he walking through the door?
Nope.
Terrell Suggs?
Nope.
None of them?
None of them walking through the door. Actually,
Tony Saragusa?
I could see Ray Lewis like walking through the door
like, I
and
wanna
giving
play
an
again.
inspirational speech.
Yeah, I'm sure he does that still. So, yeah, it's weird. So, the 49ers is a big one because they've been awesome this year. And obviously, we saw them on Monday night, got a ton of takeaways, playing the Rams, who've had some games with a lot of takeaways. I mean, would you start the 49ers, or do you still look at the Rams and think, oh, that's a bad matchup?
Yeah,
I think you actually have it. Isn't it in LA?
Yeah.
Yes.
My bad.
You got that wrong again. Another typo. Every week it seems like there's at least one.
Yeah,
about that.
the Rams scare me a little bit still.
And it feels like regression's coming for the Niners, too. And it's just because
and that
short
pass rush won't have the same success.
short trip, though.
Short week,
It's
short
a
trip, yeah.
solid line, at least in a relative sense to Cleveland. So the pass rush will be.
Well, that was
mitigated
my
a little
big
bit.
thing is that the Rams don't give up a ton of sacks, and that's been a big part of the 49ers
Right.
getting these turnovers, generating that pressure. So if they can't do that, do they just have the players who get picks, or something like that? And I don't know. I think that's a bad matchup. I think they're going to disappoint, but at the same time, it's going to be tough to not play them if you own them because they've been so good this year.
I'm going to start the Pats D this week over these guys.
That's bold.
So
11th round pick. You better start him. Can't drop him.
Gardner Minshew for the Patriots defense.
I'm good.
He's good. All right.
Darn.
That's it for that. Anything else from last week? Anything exciting?
No, I missed a lot of football this week. I was away.
You're gone.
Back in it this week.
Back in it.
9:30 game Sunday morning.
Man, it's going to be
That sucks.
a full
Quadruple header. Basically quadruple header of games on Sunday.
Basically, yeah. And then on Monday, it's really like 5.
Are we including Thursday too?
Stop. I mean, if you start Thursday, it's
What time do you guys get to work on Sunday when there's at 9:30? Anything different?
about the same.
We hadn't had that conversation yet.
I mean, you look at that
I'm new
game,
here.
Panthers-Bucks. I mean, I don't care about that game. It's only got the number 1 fantasy player in it. Other than that,
And
no one really
O.J.
cares.
Howard.
Yeah, and O.J. Howard. That's a big one. All right, first rematch of the year too, I believe, right? We're already on rematches.
Yeah,
I think so.
crazy.
We got any revenge games this week? We didn't talk about.
I mean, I'm sure there's revenge games. There have to be. There's always revenge games.
The Nate
Tom Brady against the Giants. Is that a revenge game? in a
Nate
different
sold a
way?
revenge game in that one. Carolina, Tampa.
I feel like the Redskins and
Seattle.
Dolphins have players who play
They
for
must.
each other. I don't know. It
Probably
just
this
feels
season.
like it's probably something they have. But yeah, there's always revenge games. And well, Devin Smith. I know he wasn't active last week, but this could be a big Devin Smith revenge
There
game.
you go.
So there'll be plenty that happens. And if we didn't cover something you're looking for here, go to sportnews.com/fantasy because I guarantee you we've covered it there. Would you agree, Eric?
I guarantee you did. I go to you for all my fantasy help.
It's like I'm holding you at gunpoint right now.
Would you like me to read a message for you?
No.
Here's the sheet.
Yeah.
Please go to
All right.
Sport News for all your.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we covered it. I think we nailed it. And I don't know. I think AP is going to have a big game. I think John Hilleman's going to have a big game.
No, you don't.
Can't wait till we get to what? What do you have to say for yourself next week?
I don't think John Hilleman's going to have a big game. But
You nope.
I do
said it.
think AP is going to have a good game.
You
so.
excited for Monday night Lions game
Oh, come on, man. You know I am.
at Green Bay at GB?
They broke the streak. They broke the streak of losing in Lambeau. So now I just think it's just on bigger and better. Give Matt Patricia a full week to prepare
the rocket scientist
against noodle arm Aaron Rodgers.
He's not noodle arm.
You don't think
It's like noodle
just
off.
don't let him throw, yeah.
It's not noodle arm.
It's noodle
There's
arm.
only one noodle arm.
against game manager Aaron Rodgers? You don't think
noodle
he's
boy.
going to have something
Noodle
for
boy
him?
Peyton Manning.
That's right. God
True.
bless him. All right. We're out of here. For Eric Ferrer and Billy A, and I'm Matt Latusky. Thanks for listening, and until next time.